From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com. It's time for 28mm World War II action. Will you recreate history or reshape it your way? On the Bolt Action Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Weekender. It's going to be a big one because Gen Con's just over.
Yes, talk about a fabulous week to be a gamer. This was that week. I am super excited.
Me too.
Super excited!
It's a shame Justin's not here to talk about it, but we have John to get his opinion on everything that has happened.
This is going to be the most opinionated show from John ever, because I'll be getting the messages of, let John get his opinion across. You asked for it.
Right, let's get stuck in. Speaking of opinions,
before we do, we want to say a massive shout out to Dawn and Gianna who did our Gen Con coverage. Big thank you to the ladies. We're going to be talking about Gen Con later in the show. We've got a bit of a kind of a recap of some highlights that we want basically for everybody to see.
Yeah.
And we're going to do part in this show and then part on XLBS tomorrow morning.
Cool. Yeah, the ladies did a good job. Right, let's get stuck in, though.
Yeah.
First thing on the running order here is I see something called the Great Wargaming Survey. What is it?
Right.
Why are we talking about it?
Okay, this is important, guys. We've partnered up with Wargame Soldiers and Strategy, the magazine, to help them with their kind of like an annual survey. Okay, so we've been kind of pushing it and getting it in front of people. It was due to end, but I asked them. It was due to end this weekend, basically. Yeah. But I asked them, keep it open for another day or two, could you? And I'll talk about it on the Weekender, just to let everybody know what's happening. So it's a great survey. They'll publish all the results and stuff with us. And it just gives us a general picture of what's happening in the world of wargaming.
Cool. I've got some charts and stuff on the iPad in front of me here. Do we want to bring any of this stuff up?
By all means. I have a kind of like an interim report. So it's the charts themselves will not mean an awful lot, but bring them up. I just want to talk about some of the highlights. What I'm talking about may or may not relate to the charts themselves.
Do you want me to just whiz through them as we talk then?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So one of the things that they've noticed in this edition of the survey, as opposed to last year, is they're getting more and more younger gamers responding to the survey, which is pushing down the how long have you been a gamer. Okay? So that's having a very interesting effect on the overall survey itself.
Yes.
We're seeing a rise in the amount of people that seem to be determined to continue their hobby and determined to put more time into their hobby. So there seems to be an increase in the willingness of people to engage with their hobby. What we are seeing, though, is this trend that people don't seem to be able to play weekly, that the play habits are like a few times a year.
What?
People are getting
a few times a year?
Yes. The rest of that hobby time
Yeah.
Is actually spent on the meta game.
Wow, I feel really lucky now getting to play every week.
A lot of time on the meta.
Yeah. Well, I say the meta game. It's not only the meta game. Obviously, painting, designing terrain, and,
I get what you
stuff
mean,
like
though,
that.
because I would spend quite a lot of time when I was playing 40k list building in my mind. You would spend more time list building, waiting for your next game, and then going, I've used my new list, and then you're like at the end of it going, it was crap. I need to spend another week refining it.
Yes, absolutely. And we're not alone in that. A lot of people, it is a time-consuming hobby. There's just no doubt about that. And a lot of people are basically finding that they spend more time engaged in their hobby, but that doesn't necessarily translate to playing the hobby. We will see when the results. Remember, this is just interim results, okay?
But it highlights a key thing about the hobby, that you don't necessarily need people to play with to enjoy it.
Well, one of the other interesting
comes from just sitting painting and whatnot.
Yeah, but one of the other interesting things that seem to be coming out of the survey so far is that lots of people are playing with their own age demographic.
Yeah.
There's maybe less mix of age demographic going on than what you might expect. So youngsters are sticking with youngsters, and old fogies like us are sticking with old fogies. And so there's
Here we go.
Yeah, you can see on this chart.
The people I generally play with are there's a big portion of them about my own age.
Yeah.
Not very many saying younger than me. Not very many saying older than me.
And then clubs.
And then there's a big mix.
Which is clubs.
Yeah,
it's got to be clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So what you tend to find is that people that are not affiliated to a club are playing with their friends, and as you would expect, their friends are their peers and their compatriots from school, university, perhaps,
work
or
colleagues
long time
and things like
work colleagues and the like. Those that are attached to clubs are getting a much more varied gaming experience in terms of the age bands and stuff of the players. Right. I want to talk a little bit more. Yeah. What do people like? Okay. So, in terms of what people are saying that they're liking about the hobby, the social aspect seems to be coming out on top.
Yeah.
And people are big into the social aspect. Creativity is another trend that's coming out of this. Storytelling and historical aspects. So people are really kind of getting into, I don't know, the background, whether that be historical or lore or whatever. And
so people aren't just playing for the sake of playing; they are recreating stories and creating.
Well, they're making stories out of their sci-fi games and their fantasy games.
I think that's why we're in this hobby. It's what might draw us in is the beautiful miniatures and stuff. But what keeps us here is definitely the background. But that's just my opinion. John, what do you think?
Yes. What would let's get you on the camera and everything. John, what would your opinion
your opinion on that matter be, John?
Well, I'm a historical gamer.
Yes.
So that's where I come from. That's what I like to see. I like my historical background and everything to it.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so last on that list, and it's not an exhaustive list I have, when the full results come out, is getting to play games. But don't you find it interesting that that these other things are rated above the actual game playing itself? And I can very much relate to that, because in my own journeys through Warhammer 40k and Bolt Action more recently, I find I enjoy my daydreaming is daydreaming about this. So I'm daydreaming about my armies, and what I want to do with those armies, or what. Just all kinds of weird, interesting storytelling, even in my own mind.
Yeah. It's good for forums and stuff, though, because where you're going to go and talk about all these ideas, you go to forums and things.
Or Facebook, or what other social platform you decide to engage in. What do people do not like and want to change?
Ooh, here we go. What do they not like?
The number one, from what I can gather, is rules lawyering. Okay, people really, really do not like the winning at all costs attitude.
Yes, like for example,
is it really that prevalent anymore, though?
For example, right? Maybe you're playing a game and you've got hedges, and you're going over the hedge, and someone's like, "Oh no, you have to take a boggin test."
Yeah.
No, I don't want to. We've loads of hedges. Well, then you should have put fences in instead.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't have taken a boggin test on that. And I'm sitting thinking, could you not let it slide?
Yes, but there's an aspect to that, in that if you agree in advance what your terrain is, and every game of the bogging test, you're clearly talking about Flames of War here, something very close to my heart. But every game of Flames of War I have ever played, both in a tournament and outside of a tournament, I've spent time with my opponent, talking through the terrain features, and saying this is this, so on. Now that in Beasts of War we like putting together big tables with lots of terrain and stuff in it, so we're more inclined to put a lot of hedgerows and stuff in, but agree in advance. Do you know what? These hedgerows are not bocage or whatever. They're not going to do a tank any harm. We'll not worry about bogging checks on that. Whereas this slightly larger hedgerow, or this deep hedgerow here, you'll take a bogging check if you go across that. So.
I have yet to run into a hedgerow in World of Tanks that I haven't just driven straight through.
Well, you haven't tried to drive over bocage then. When you do that, yes, bogging checks are required.
Are there any bocage in World of Tanks?
No.
Why?
Not yet, anyway.
Okay, moving on.
Okay,
Your
so
opinion on the fact that they don't
yes,
have
yeah, what's your opinion on that, John?
Opinion doesn't matter. Go.
Okay, so rules lawyering is definitely up there. I would have thought that this is becoming less and less of an issue these days.
Yeah.
Price and cost. Look, this is going to be one of those things that I think is going to be time immemorial for us all. You know, that we can talk about price and cost of this industry. Would we all like this industry, the models and stuff, to be cheaper? Absolutely. But in order for that to happen, we would have to have infrastructure costs be cheaper, rent costs be cheaper, wages costs be cheaper, materials costs be cheaper. We are at the end of the chain. We are at the end of that ecosystem. So everything else has to be cheaper in order for that to happen. So it's a little bit like pissing into the wind, this talk about price and stuff. You know, 9 times out of 10, the price is what it has to be in order for us to get the product to ourselves.
Yes.
So I can understand it. I can understand it being on there. We all feel like that. I'm gobsmacked that a loaf of bread costs £1.50 these days.
I can pretty much guarantee you most miniature companies are not laughing their way to the bank thinking, that's a brilliant year, we've just scraped up tons of money.
Yeah, clearly there are exceptions where things are priced maybe wrong or priced high. You know, we know, for example, the Games Workshop has this idea of the premium product. You know, their product is the Apple, you know, within the industry. And in order for them to be able to do that, then their cost base from design, development, production is going to be higher as well. So it's all down to the mechanics of what the market will bear when it comes to that instance.
But at the end of the day as well, it's a hobby. It's not an essential part of your life. You know, so hobby companies...
Is that your opinion, John?
Let me voice my opinion, sir.
I think a lot of people would disagree with you, John, and say a hobby is very much an essential part of their life.
A pastime.
But a hobby
relax
sucks
with.
Up so much of your time.
This hobby sucks up so much of your time.
But go on, because we want to hear your opinion.
Yes.
I hate it when he says that now. But no, I'm a reenactor as well, so I'm used to all the prices and being really expensive stuff, and you sort of sit there with your wage pack and go, maybe, and then, you know, in my case I go and throw it all away anyway. But because it's a hobby, they can charge essentially what they want.
Yeah.
Because if you're really into it, you're going to buy it.
Well, you could be into more expensive hobbies like golf.
Yeah.
Or fast cars. You know, there's a lot of hobbies. So anyway,
or World of Tanks, John, or 50 quid a month.
World of Tanks, I've blown that already in 2 days.
The final point that I want to talk about, and please go across and fill in the survey. The link should be in the show notes, so go across, fill it in, and we'll see what we can get back from this. So the final one, and I'm desperate to get John's opinion on this, is how wargamers don't seem very welcoming to new players, women especially. And there seems to be a big desire in wanting that to change. It seems to be quite big within the survey that more people want to see a more welcoming atmosphere, more welcoming environment within our industry.
But if the vast majority is saying that, why isn't it just like that then? Why are they feeling this if the vast majority of people are saying that's what we want?
I don't know. You know, we have to take into account that this hobby. Obviously, as it becomes more and more mainstream, we're going to find a much wider variety of people within our hobby. But let's remember that the roots of this hobby are, you know, many of us. Do you know what? I'm just going to be blunt. I may be wrong in what I'm about to say, but I'm going to have a crack at answering it. It's just my opinion. I'll let John give a more valid opinion in a minute. But look, many of us have come through this hobby. We've been interested in science fiction, fantastical worlds. Okay, something has drawn us to that. We all have, all of us in this hobby have had something that's kind of drawn us to there. You know, whereas other people have been out playing football and things like that during their summers, we would have spent our summers sitting on our bedroom floors, drawing pictures of orcs or drawing maps of dungeons and things like that. You know, many of us, either as a result of being...
You know what, you've said that, I just want to go out of the studio and get some old paper and dye it with tea, and then get a lighter and
making parchments.
Some parchments and stuff.
Yeah. We used to make parchments to try and make magic spells, so we had could make a big spell book of spells that we could use in our role playing and stuff. But we have to remember that whether as a result of our personality traits or as a result of falling in love with that kind of hobby, many of us had tough times at school. We had tough times integrating, with other people and things like that, in that environment, especially during them young teenage years and things. So it doesn't surprise me that that shyness, for want of a better word, it's I don't want to say antisocialness, because I don't believe that it's generally an antisocial issue. I think it's more of a shyness.
I'm just having a look to see what the charts say again. Did any of the charts discuss where people played their games?
Oh, they do, but I don't think that we have them there.
Oh, well.
But anyway, back to my point. I'm not surprised that there are some social issues within our hobby space as a result of that.
This is where I was going with. One of the things I find is you'll turn up for clubs and only to find out people have gone to play war games in their house, and you're at the club going, but I came in to play, and they've gone off and played something on their own.
Yeah.
Rather than getting involved with the club atmosphere.
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen. It's but we have to be realistic about this. We have to be accepting of the fact that for whatever reason, for a lot of us within this hobby, we didn't get the easiest of rides. And that will obviously translate itself into things where we generally maybe have difficulty just immediately gelling with people. We maybe have a wariness, and this is just, I think, is what it is. I think it will pass. I think as we get more and more mainstream, the comfort factors and stuff will go down. Because I'm talking about it on this hobby, okay?
Yes.
But before I even got into this hobby, video gaming for me and you was on the Amiga, on the Spectrum. Before that, we were geeks from day one. We were bullied because we used to run around buying pirated floppy disks for the Amiga. It was like
you mentioned the Amiga. The Amiga turned 30 like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I was looking at it going, "Oh man, I feel really old."
Yeah, well, like we were there. We were getting it whenever it was coming out, but we were geeks. So this is not something that's endemic to just our hobby. You look at the cool factor of video gaming now.
Yes, but
and that
video gaming can be really antisocial. Have you
Yeah.
seen the slagging off what all the console people and the PC people do on the internet? And I just look at it and go, this is ridiculous.
It is fearsome, but on the whole, video gaming has a certain cool factor and stuff about it.
Yes.
So it's kind of transcending those issues.
You're not gonna get bullied for being a video gamer.
Not anymore.
When you're able to televise world finals of two clans playing a game or something.
Halo, $1 million top prize for the Halo esports that's coming out.
Yes, $1 million, John. What's your opinion on that?
What's your opinion on
My
$1
opinion is
million?
why are you not playing it?
Because it's not out yet. It's for Halo 5 when it comes out.
Anyway, there's the Great Wargaming Survey. Your opinion counts. Like I said, they very kindly extended it on for an extra couple of days. So please take some time over the weekend to get involved in that so that we can all get the results of this and get an interesting picture of our hobby today and be able to compare it with the results of last year to see just what has changed within a year.
Yeah, that's a good point right at the end. I am looking forward now you've said it, to looking at the results from last year. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Moving on.
Yeah.
We've got Bolt Action, the summer offensive to talk about.
Yes. I've had a Age of Sigmar 40k fest over the last couple of weeks, trying to get things fired up and moving along. But while all that's been going on, I haven't been getting my Bolt Action fix and my Flames of War fix. So I'm now starting to get my gaze and all turned back on that. And one of the coolest things that's happening this summer is the Bolt Action Summer Offensive.
I have picks, but I have loads of picks. I don't know where to start.
Well, pass it over, and I will have a look at this. Okay. So the Bolt Action Summer Offensive is an online summer campaign. So basically, you can register. You get together and you put in the results of your battles and things like that.
Yes.
And they're tracking all the different countries. So whenever you're ready, go across to the website, and you'll see this. Where you can basically just fill in your details and create an account. Once you've created an account, you're going to get into the actual site itself, and this is what it looks like.
This does look really cool, actually.
It's really, really well made. So you have all the fronts, and on the fronts you can see the Axis versus Allies, the kind of who's winning. So on the Western Front, Axis is winning. On the Eastern Front, Axis is winning. In the Africa and Mediterranean front, guess what? Axis is winning. And what do you think's happening in the Pacific?
Oh.
Yes, John, what's your opinion on this?
Because Axis is winning. So
It does seem to be a serious amount of Axis players in Bolt Action, doesn't it?
There's a lot of German, Japanese, Italian players out there.
I love the swingometers.
well, basically, when you go inside one,
Yeah.
for this instance, I went inside the Western Front. You get to see the latest battles, and you can go in, and some people have uploaded photographs and uploaded battle reports and stuff like that. Other people, to be fair, have just uploaded results, which I think is...
Well, what do you mean? Can you click these things?
You can click those,
and you get like mini battle reports and stuff?
on some of them. On some of them. I don't really see the point of just chucking in results if you're not going to chuck in actual battle reports and stuff as well. But there are other things that you can do. You can look at individual profiles. So when you sign up, you create a profile and you get a service record where you can go up in rank.
Yeah.
The more battle reports and things you submit, the higher you go up in rank, and it gives you all your stats and stuff.
That's cool. I like the fact that they've given you an incentive to keep reporting.
Isn't it? One of my favorite features in the whole thing, it's really sad, but do you see that weekly Warlord newspaper?
Well, let me just bring that up, yeah.
Yeah, just up there above the Pacific
The
map.
one that says the Blitz hits?
Yeah. Well, when you click on that, you get the weekly Warlord newspaper. And basically, during the campaign, they've been putting in kind of suggestions for battles and stuff like that. So, you know, there's, like, for example, this one, missions. So here's a mission, Panzer's in the desert. On the mission, it gives you the description of the mission. You scroll down, it gives you even your maps and things like that. And yeah, it's very, very cool. The other great highlight that's on it is if you check this one out, this is the Roll of Honor. Okay,
yeah.
So this gives you the who's the outstanding commanders. So players who have posted the most battles. You can get the battlefield reporters, and they've posted the most action reports, and then you can get who's posted the most photographs or whatever.
I'll tell you what, something like this really gets me interested in getting into playing a lot of Bolt Action.
Yeah,
It's like World of Tanks only for Bolt Action, John. What's your opinion?
What's your opinion on that? We're gonna have to stop that. Well, my opinion on this is, for me, Warlord encapsulate the best of this industry at the moment. You know, I've got to say a huge congratulations to Warlord, because Warlord have grown off the back of Bolt Action.
Yes, they've really ran with that range.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're a big hit and they've just gone, whoomp, we're all over that. Let's support it.
But not only that's the key. Not only have they grown, but they have flourished and blossomed, and they are like everything that we always loved about companies in this. You know, they seem to represent the best of that. You know, they're doing the summer campaigns. They have a sense of humor. They're getting involved in the community. They're going to every event that there is, and they're talking to everybody. You know, they are a company that I think I've gained a huge amount of respect from myself. You know, I just think that they're doing a fabulous job. I think the senior management of John Stallard and Rick Priestley and all in there are the. I don't know if they know just how good a job they're doing from the perspective of us looking in and seeing just how well they're supporting not only their community, but the wider community, and I think it has to be applauded.
I know. I'll just go on because I'm going to slightly sidetrack us.
And my last little picture for I think just highlights that so well. Okay, is at the bottom of the newspaper is Priestley's Greengrocers. Oh, a lovely pair! and I think that just says it all. Really, they're old school, but they're old school in a new way, and I think it's great.
Well, what I was going to say is I'm looking forward to this level of commitment to the likes of Gates of Antares and stuff when it starts to get a bit of traction.
Yeah.
It's not quite got the traction yet.
Well, it's not released yet. Like Gates of Antares doesn't officially launch until November, I believe. Whenever we will likely see the first starter sets.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of sci-fi already in the marketplace.
It has a tough task ahead of it, niching itself in between 40k and Infinity and stuff like this. Bold Action is probably an easier task for them. They're going to have to work hard on the sci-fi.
It was the first and pretty much only 28mm World War II game.
Someone will differ with you. Someone will.
Well, in terms of with the level of support and miniatures infrastructure,
the sheer amount that you can bring to it.
Yeah. You might have had little smaller companies that were creating little small aspects of infantry or vehicles and stuff here, but none of them created the package, of the game, which is the books, the miniatures, everything. It created a gap and then filled the gap.
Yeah, and then they're going to fill it even more. I mean, will we move on to talking about what's next?
Yes, John.
What is next?
What is coming up? Well, first things first. Okay, before we get to your opinion, I just want to say that I've been really stoked with how well we've been doing this thing about our projects, moving our projects into the kind of the live blogging system.
Yes,
which
the plugs.
Yeah, the plugs. With like plug system. It's basically the live blog, but we use them for projects now and call them plugs. It's been working really well because it allows a project to build up. It can sync off the front page for a while until another aspect of it has been complete, and then it can go back up, and it keeps everything nice and self-contained. We've been doing it now for the 40k stuff that's going on, for the Age of Sigmar stuff that's going on.
And some people have asked us to do it for our own personal stuff. That's not going to happen because while we're driving on stuff like the 40k and whatnot, we're getting regular updates. If we did something like that for our own personal stuff, it would look cool every now and again, but it would be months between updates.
But I don't think that matters.
You think?
I think the self-containedness of it is what allows that to work. For example, what I was about to say there is I haven't got very far with my Soviets, just with everything that's been going on. I'm about to move my Soviet project for Bolt Action into one of these plugs. So as that I can keep everything self-contained and I can do aspects of it, and whenever it's updated in a significant way, it can come back onto the homepage up to the top of the list. These projects don't have to go bang, 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 bang all the time. They can move on. They can start to go off the boil a little bit. And then, as we'll talk about Age of Sigmar, the Lake Town table later on, when another aspect of it is rediscovered or we decide to do something new or fresh for it, it can go in there and then go right back up to the top again. Well, one of the reasons I'm not so sure about putting personal. See, I don't have very many personal projects going on because we're so busy. But
I have my own personal project, but I've gone to the forums for it. I'm basically just doing it in the forums.
Yeah, and it's a great way for anybody that's got a project running to go in and do it. But I just wanted to say, we're going to be creating one for Bolt Action, specifically looking at the development of the Soviet army, which is more historical based. It's a bit too late. There's no point in doing it for his or Justin's army because they were able to push on ahead. But mine is still in that early stages where it can fit nicely in there. So.
You're playing
British.
Justin's playing Germans.
Germans.
Yep.
Yeah.
it's a bit like the war. The Russians didn't really get any traction till in.
Yeah, but just you wait till you see what we can do.
further.
So, for our historical players and viewers out there, I know that you've been wondering about. Well, let's get a bit more historical going again. Yes, it's going to find its way in there. So,
Cool.
new releases.
New releases.
Very quickly on Warlord.
Right, we have a new book coming. Let me see if I can get it up there first.
This is Empires in Flames. This is Pacific, isn't it?
This is Pacific Theater, yeah. This is going to be interesting. This is all our U.S. Marine Corps, the Japanese forces, and all that sort of stuff. I'll slide along a few more images because there's a few more here for it. Yep, so there's a few bits there. We have an anti-tank gun, and we have the Sherman that has that add-on armor they put on in the Pacific Theater.
Sherman's made it to the Pacific then.
Yeah,
I suppose they have to. It was the only tank that they really had, wasn't it?
Pretty much. The U.S. Marines had a range of vehicles they wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and then realized in the first stages of the campaign that they were utter crap, so they had to get Shermans to come along and replace.
What made Shermans more effective? Well, right, firstly, you may not know the answer, and if you don't, that's fine. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what was it that the Marines wanted? What was the kind of stuff that they actually wanted?
The Marines had an idea where they would have a light tank that would land first. That would be an amphibious vehicle that would land first and would only have a couple of machine guns on it.
Well, considering it's island hopping, you can see why they would.
You can see the logic. So that would take the beach, and then behind it they would have a medium tank of 12 tons come up behind that had a small cannon and would push the fight on in.
Yeah.
So I'm a little lost here. Which tank was the light tank?
The light tank was about 5 or 6 tons, and they eventually went with the M3 Stuart initially.
Yeah.
But they also had, the US Marine Corps had their own idea for their own tank they wanted to use, a specific one for them. That turned out to be a failure. So then...
Any specific reason why it was a failure?
Because the Japanese had better anti-tank guns. And what the Americans anticipated was a load of machine guns, like First World War-esque frontline.
Yeah.
They'd roll up with these little lightly armoured things, pop away at the machine guns, and then they would move on.
That's not what they found then.
Yeah, what happened was these things came ashore and the first one would explode into bits.
Yeah.
So they realized they needed something better.
And what is the weight of a Sherman?
The Sherman is 32 tons.
We know that they were amphibious, or they could be made amphibious.
They could be made
amphibious. Were they duckies or rubber ducks or something?
You had the DDs. Duplex drive, yeah.
Well, I believe, do we have a picture?
We have pictures, but we'll be talking about those in backstage as well.
Oh, we've pictures for backstage.
Right, we're going to talk about that then. So they ended up with the Sherman, and the Sherman. Well, by this stage, the Sherman was the workhorse over in Europe anyway. Yeah. So any bugs and things like that were going to be pretty ironed out by this point. Yeah. The other tank, the M3 Lee and the M3 Grant, that one that's got the weird offset gun and the really tall little turret on the top of it, those were still perfectly functional right up to the end of the Pacific Theater because the Japanese had nothing to respond to it. Well, Empires in Flames is on its way.
I think we have some more images to get through here.
We have more.
I think this is it's the last big theater for them now to explore. They've went through the theater so quick. So you've got your full-on Japanese. I love these guys on the mortar team.
Yeah, the mortar team that have.
I've been watching Pacific.
It's a grim show.
It's certainly no Band of Brothers. I've got to say. It's
Is it a bit gruesome?
No, it's not gruesome.
In places it can.
Well, yeah.
How far have you watched?
Yeah. Maybe not far enough.
No,
because although a lot of people like say Saving Private Ryan's a great movie. I watched it once and I've never watched it again. That moment of the guy getting stabbed through the heart, that always does it for me. So I'm always fast forward that bit, Andrea, please. I'm at the point where the Marines have come back to Australia and are impregnating all the Australians at the moment.
Oh, you're not far enough then.
So I still, but it's I don't relate to the characters as deeply, as quickly as I did with the Band of Brothers.
Well, but that's because you've not been in Australia.
But I'm not
impregnating women.
I'm not bringing it up to talk about the relation to the characters. What I was bringing it up was to talk about the military and the war scenes in them are brutal. Like they are, and and that's where your guys with the mortar team. That was pretty much what you saw. It was
guys stripped down in their
like they were ruined, you know, after a tour on I was going to say on these beaches, but they were fighting inland as well. On
so you've watched as far as the Guadalcanal battles, because that was the first bit they really did. Well, with the release of this book, they're bringing out a miniature of one of the people portrayed in the Pacific, and that's John Basilone.
John Basilone,
who won the Medal of Honor.
Oh, that's your chap that won
That's the guy that ran around, you see him in the show running around with the machine gun without the tripod on, gunning down the Japanese soldiers.
He was then sent back to the States to act as a kind of a propaganda guy. So
to sell war bombs.
But I don't know anything more than that, so don't tell me. And don't post in the comments, because I don't know what happened to him after that. So.
But was he particularly good, or was he just really fluky?
Well, he was courageous, Lloyd.
He took the incentive to realize that his position with his machine gun wasn't good enough. So he takes the weapon without the tripod, and these were the old water-cooled 30s. These are heavy buggers of things. Without the asbestos glove as well. So he was running without that. He had his hand on the barrel as it was boiling water on it, and he would run around and pick off Japanese patrols that were trying to flank around their front line.
It was a heavy courage shown by that guy. Well, anything else?
The Pacific was brutal, so that's why you ended up with moments like that.
Yep. I believe we have a few more images here. Some other bits here.
Nice. I know this guy.
You know this guy at the bottom? Yeah.
This is Kelly's Heroes, is it?
Yeah, this is Kelly's Heroes. This is Oddball and his Sherman crew. But the release we're actually looking at here is the guys up on the top left. These are the Winter Americans. These are your Bastogne defenders.
That's the guys that were in the forest then.
This is Europe towards the end of the war, 1944-45, fighting through that winter.
Yeah. That is a part of the Band of Brothers series that I absolutely loved, was the winter fighting scenes, you know, because you got that sense of, is this ever going to end? You never got the sense of them feeling like they were going to be beaten or defeated, but you did get that sense of frustration where they weren't only battling the enemy, they were battling the weather as well to a large degree. And then it was even worse over on the Eastern Front. So yeah, it's I think they're pretty cool, but I do love the Kelly's Heroes miniatures. I think they're
something
great.
I have to get my hands on.
Well, I think that's it for Warlord. Other than that, I think there's some plastic Fallschirmjägers on the way as well. So there is a ton of stuff to look for.
Okay, we're going to tell you about some hubs, and then we're going to be back to talk some more wargaming.
Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com. Flames of War brings you the battles of World War II in epic 15mm scale. Go to the hub on beastsofwar.com to find news, tactics, and tutorials about the game.
Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about something that popped up on the site. There was a wee post popped up in the news flow, and I was looking at it going, oh, that looks interesting. And then about an hour later, I looked at it again. I went, what the heck? Like 78 comments on this. What is this Team Yankee thing? And I was like, I have to go in and find out. What on earth is the Team Yankee?
This was the icing on an amazing week of gaming for me.
Yeah.
I'm so excited! Right. Team Yankee is basically, this is Flames of War.
Yeah.
Okay? Cold War, baby. This is Cold War gets hot.
Hold on.
Okay?
Oh, yeah!
Yeah.
I'm excited about this.
Right. The name Team Yankee, because a lot of people may not be familiar. I certainly wasn't familiar with it. Team Yankee is a name of a novel. A novel series. It was written in 1987 by a guy called Howard Coyle. Want to check that? Harold Coyle.
Harold Coyle.
Yeah. At the time he wrote it, he was a major in the U.S. Army, and he was writing basically about World War III from a tanker's perspective.
Hang on then. Hang on. I have something for you. Because I picked this up at the weekend. You remember last weekend there I was saying, oh, don't come to gaming on Sunday. I have to go and be at a reenactment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and spent some money. A lot of money.
As you do, John.
As I do on everything. And I found this.
What the heck is
What
this?
This
is that?
is a Soviet tank helmet with early model night vision.
Really?
This is night vision. Yep.
Oh, let me put it on.
Go on then.
Right, so this is Cold War Gets Hot Lloyd, basically, right?
Okay.
Hang on.
Uh-huh.
I'll get that for you.
So, how does this work? Oh, it goes like that.
Yes.
Does it come with gaffer tape?
No.
They get the lens off. You can't see through it without power going through it, but
Come with me if you want to live. Okay. Anyway,
This is
So-
this is just weird.
how cool is this?
I think your flap might be hitting our mic every now and again.
Okay, right.
Don't
Is that
worry.
okay now? Yeah?
That's the one.
That's the one. Right. So, he wrote this book, Team Yankee, in '87. Okay, it was.
Right? Yeah.
Can you get a tank big enough? It's based on a tank crew's experience during World War III. But the World War III was based on a book called The Third World War, written by a guy called Sir John Hackett. So what happened is Sir John Hackett wrote a book called The Third World War, and then Harold Coyle used that as an inspiration
to
write the novel about this crew's experience in that war as depicted by Sir John Hackett. So that's where we're at. It's very famous among kind of like historical and military guys. They would have known about this. I wouldn't have expected many of our viewers and wargamers to know about it. So this is now. I'm gonna have to take this off because it's really mucking my ears. But that's an amazing piece, John. So, but
Wait, we haven't even talked about the best bit. John, what the manual's in what? Russian or Polish or something?
Polish. Yeah.
And the only bit you've managed to decipher says what?
Says what does it? Make sure switch is on before plugging in.
No, the other one.
The other one. Oh, the health warning.
is there a health warning?
There's a health warning.
Oh, don't tell me there's plutonium or something in it. Is there?
Apparently,
Uh-huh.
early gen Russian night vision had a tendency when switched on, so you're safe,
Yeah.
when switched on to emit X-rays
Into your eyeballs.
and back into your eye.
Right. Okay.
So we are not switching this thing on.
Well, what we're looking at here, we don't have very much details other than the fact that it's been announced. But what we're looking at is a whole Cold War. This is not historical. Okay. It is historical from an equipment perspective because we all know what equipment was developed during that period.
Yes.
But the Cold War didn't get hot.
Yes.
So this is proper alternate reality. It's not weird war. This is alternate reality war.
We're alternative history.
Well, yeah,
Alternative history / what
yeah,
if, I guess.
It's very much a what if. And this appeals to me. This appeals to me much more than Weird World War. Because all the weird stuff when you start getting walking tanks and stuff, yeah, I know you love all that.
No,
but
but
this
this
appeals to me immensely.
I like this too, and when I was looking at it, I was saying, do you know what? For Battlefront, this could be a winner for them because they've been doing World War II now for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I kind of
Well, you know, they've done World War II. They've done all of World War II.
That's my point. Where do you go now? Now this gives them a new lease of life. If they want to run with this, they can do all sorts because they did Vietnam, but Vietnam you ran out of stuff to do pretty quickly.
Vietnam has, you could go really, really deep in Vietnam, but we're gamers at the end of the day, and how deep do you realistically want to go? World War One, there wasn't a lot of tanks really going on in World War One. It all happened at the end, so World War One was never going to be a theater that suited Flames of War to that extent from a sales perspective. Arab-Israeli War
Was
it's still fairly narrow.
in the height of it, it was 6 days.
Yeah, it was a flash in the pan.
Yeah, it really was.
This is exactly where they need to go. I hope beyond hope that Team Yankee becomes a really well. Firstly, it has to become a big seller.
Yes.
If it's not a big seller, they're clearly not going to support it, and who could blame them? You wouldn't expect them to support something that isn't going to sell. So, firstly, I hope it becomes a big seller. A lot of people want to play it, but as a reaction to it becoming a big seller, I really hope that that Battlefront go all in on this game and throw at it. Because you can start to see Some of the early attack helicopters and
Yep.
things like that are around this time.
This is what the novel is set
1987.
in the late 80s.
So your
so-
late 80s, Apaches and things you're going to
you have
start seeing
Apaches
around
coming
that.
in.
Yeah.
Think Rambo and then big Russian helicopters.
Yes,
That's-
Heinz.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what we're looking at. Think of now it's 15 mil,
Yeah.
okay, which I think is a good scale. It'll play very differently, I would imagine, from World War II games. You know, it's I can imagine something like this playing a little bit like maybe even a bit like Drop Zone Commander in some respects. You know,
perhaps,
because of the way warfare will be fought in this period. But for me, one of the big things is the terrain. What options are we going to have? I've already been doing my research. So while everybody else has been thinking about this game, I've been off researching photographs of Checkpoint Charlie. I want to do a recreation on a 6x4 table at a 15 mil scale of Checkpoint Charlie. So I've been trying to get some maps of what Checkpoint Charlie looked like, because it evolved over the years. It looked very different by the time 1987 came around than it did in the 1960s or the
Which
1950s.
border is this on?
Well, Checkpoint Charlie, you've been there!
It's in Berlin,
it's
isn't it?
Berlin. It was the main crossing point between East and West Berlin.
That's probably what confused me, because I was sitting thinking, I think I've been there and it's just a load of high-rise buildings.
Well, yes, it is. It is now. It was fairly high-rise at the time. For me, it's a real opportunity to try and have, like, if Cold War gets hot, where's it going to get hot? Checkpoint Charlie. That's where it's going to get hot. At least in my mind. Yeah, fair enough. It might happen somewhere further up in the borders or whatever. But you know, you'll get lots of flexibility in your battlefields on this. But for me, I want to see if we can create some printout terrain to try and create a Checkpoint Charlie board to fight this out. I'm just really excited about it. I think it's really cool. I have a downside though with Cold War Gets Hot. So I decided to create you a presentation.
Okay.
Surely,
Has it got slides? And
surely
everything?
it has slides and everything, right? I was all excited about the whole Cold War Gets Hot.
Yes.
And then it occurred to me, but surely the end result of Cold War Gets Hot is nuclear holocaust. And that doesn't
Okay.
make for a very good game. Really, it
it's
doesn't. You know, it's,
Pretty brief game.
in your opinion. It's so you know, I wanted to have a chat about the nuclear aspect of it. You know, it's been 70 years since the first nuke was dropped in anger.
In Hiroshima.
Yeah, it just passed there on the 6th of August.
But the nuclear technology during this phase of humanity, it was a very different prospect, and this is why it'll be interesting to see how this pans out without nukes. Okay, because once it goes nukes, that's it. It's game over. Not only game over from a life point of view, but game over from a game point of
surely
view.
you could use tactical nukes.
No. Well, let me talk to you about that in a second. There's a very famous game based on the Cold War. It's called Twilight Struggle, and it's by Ananda Gupta. You remember Ananda,
Yes.
who was in XCOM, who's the designer of XCOM? He designed a very famous game called Twilight Struggle. And the premise for Twilight Struggle is you play the game out to try and not have a nuclear war. If it gets to nuclear war, you've lost the game.
Yes.
So, I want to talk a little bit about why the nuke part doesn't work, right? Now, none of us have had any experience of a nuke.
No.
Okay, so let me start by putting this into some kind of perspective of, you know, like a blast radius and stuff. The closest we've ever got to a nuke has been one of the many cease and desist letters that we've received. So here we go. This is my little drawing of our offices, right? So a cease and desist comes in, and its blast radius within the Beasts of War headquarters stretches from about my desk to the bin. Okay, so that gives you an idea of a C&D bomb that's dropped on Beasts of War. So the rest of this presentation is all about imagine if Beasts of War got nuked. Okay? So.
But moving over here is the toilets. You guys drop nukes in there all the
Oh,
time.
very good, Lloyd. Very good. Yeah.
Awful.
Right, so let me start by showing you where Beasts of War is in the world. So here is my first slide. This is a map. And you see that little red dot right in the middle of the world?
It's funny that right in the middle of
Yes,
the world,
Beasts of War is located at the center of the world.
Middle Earth.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like we picked this location just to be at the center of the world. Right, that's where Beasts of War is.
Yes.
Now let me go in a little bit closer and go into the UK. All right. So down there in the bottom corner, you can see London.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So bring this up for the viewers at home, and then up there at the top, you can see Beasts of War. So if you ever wondered where Beasts of War is and you were aiming your nukes at us, this is where they would go.
Just that this map always gives me some comfort, though. It's a bit morbid, but I always like the fact that we're so far away from London. We're on topic of nuclear war.
Yeah, don't take too much comfort from what I'm about to show you.
Okay.
So let's zoom into the town itself, okay?
Yeah.
So this is the town of Coleraine, and there's Beasts of War right in the middle of the town, right?
Yes.
On that. Let's drop the smallest nuke ever detonated on Beasts of War, okay? So this nuke is called the Davy Crockett, okay?
Yes.
And the Davy Crockett, the yellow is the fireball, okay? The red is the air blast, and then the blue is another air blast, and then there's the radiation and stuff like that, okay? So if you drop that on Beasts of War, the chances are that, if we trample over the top of one another, we're going to get away. It had a fireball radius of 20 meters.
Right.
Because it was the equivalent of 20 tons of TNT, I think. Thereabouts. Okay? It is going to bring this building down. That's probably as close as you get to like a tactical nuke. But look at the amount of radiation spread even there. You're still talking about half a kilometer of radiation spread.
Am I imagining that tactical nukes exist? Is this something I've just imagined?
Well, I did see a video on YouTube once of a huge explosion. And just at the very point that the explosion was going off, a lot of these white pixelization things happened on the camera. And one of the explanations was apparently nobody has ever dropped a tactical nuke. It's against all the rules to do anything nuclear. But the video camera that was watching this, I think it was somewhere in Syria or one of these places, it started to flick white with lots and lots of little kind of pixelizations, and it was talk of that was protons or something like that being released. So then they thought, that was such a big blast that may well have been a tactical nuke, but it shouldn't have been. It's fairly common knowledge.
Have I just picked this up from Starship Troopers then? This
Yes, you have.
thing?
Yeah, there's no such thing. Well, there is.
I think
but
there is
there's not.
to take out battleships and stuff.
So that's the smallest nuke, and that's what happens, right? Let's go for something slightly bigger. Okay.
This could be scary. Oh, this does look scary.
We all know that Kim Jong-un is a huge fan of the show. He sits over there in his compound in North Korea. He loves Beasts of War, okay? But let's imagine...
He laps it up. Can't get enough.
Yeah, let's imagine it was last week, okay? He was sitting in front of his screen watching Beasts of War going...
Hello?
What? The Weekender's an hour and a half? And you didn't mention Gen Con once? How dare you? Biggest thing happening all week and you didn't mention it? So he's decided to nuke us as a result of that, okay?
I did think we should maybe have just canned everything we'd done and shoot it again.
Yes, well, you see, to put King Jong-un at ease, that's probably what we should have done. But anyway, he's taken umbrage to this and he's decided to press his button. This is the largest nuke that the North Koreans have ever tested, okay? So on this one, you can see, look at the estimated...
Wait a minute. The North Koreans actually have nukes then?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They don't have like 1 million people in a cave hitting them with a hammer.
No, they actually have nukes, okay? So this is a 10 kiloton, okay? So look at the difference you're starting to see here. You're starting to see a fireball radius of 150 meters. So that's incinerated, okay? Radiation is now out to 1 kilometer. The air blast, so the air blast radius, that's typically what's going to take buildings down. So buildings will fall within that air blast. 1.5 kilometers of buildings are going to go down radius. So 3 kilometers, basically, in a circle is going to come down. At this stage, though, you're going to see more injuries than fatalities, okay?
Right.
According to the nuke map, anyway. So that's if Kim Jong-un wants to get us, okay? Let's step it up a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay. So this is, to try and put it into perspective, it's been the 70th anniversary of the first bomb, okay?
Yes.
This is the second bomb that was dropped. Only the second bomb that was ever dropped in anger, okay? It was called Fat Man, and it dropped on Nagasaki. And while the first bomb was 15 kilotons, this was a 20 kiloton bomb, okay? Now look at this. Now one of the first things you'll notice is that the estimated fatalities is now higher than injuries.
Yes.
Okay? You have a fireball radius of 200 meters, okay? But the air blast is going out to nearly 2 kilometers, okay? It's very, very big in terms of the amount of damage it's going to do. And we can see from that most of Coleraine is gone. You know, I can tell you for a fact there's not much in Coleraine, and there's nothing of any value in Coleraine that isn't inside one of those radiuses. So
Yes,
you know,
we're the best thing in the town.
yeah. So really, if you wanted to take out Coleraine, just aim for Beasts of War, really, and you'll get it. So that's
Stop telling Kim.
so that's real life now. Okay, now let's have a look at if the Americans, okay, so decided to launch an attack on Beasts of War. Okay, so let's imagine that one of my little buddies over on his blog has managed to sneak into the White House and press the button and directed all his at us. Look at this. You are no longer looking at towns. You're now taking out entire counties. Okay, the estimated fatalities is way up there.
It's almost a quarter of the country.
Yeah, and look at the radiation patterns. You know, and that's still an airburst, but the radiation is going to go all the way across the country. So, you know, let's talk about the fireball radius. The fireball radius alone this is the largest US bomb that was ever tested.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 kilometers radius. Okay, so 25 kilometers square incinerated. Okay, air blast nearly 100 kilometers square blasted to smithereens.
Yeah.
At 20 psi, so in other words, turned to dust. Knocked down nearly 450 kilometers square of buildings knocked down. This is why nuclear war it doesn't work.
It has got to be off the cards.
It
surely.
doesn't work. You know, and this is why even today, with all the tensions and stuff that we've got going on, what do we have? We don't have direct warfare. We have warfare by proxy taking place in the Middle East, taking place in Ukraine, because we can't afford for it to get to this level. You will lose Beasts of War if this happens. No, the Americans are pretty scary.
Right.
Yeah,
I believe there is a figure.
that was Castle Bravo. That bomb. Okay. Do you want to see what the Russians would do to us?
Go on.
Is this the biggest Russian one?
This is the Soviets. Okay. So if
Yeah.
Vladimir's over there.
Make sure that I can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Go on.
His mate, Kim Jong-un's phoned him up and said, hey, my nuke missed. But did you see the Beasts of War last week? Didn't even talk about Gen Con on the most important week? Do something about it, Vladimir. Vladimir hits us with this. This is called the Tsar, okay? Now, the Tsar was 100 megaton nuke, okay? The fireball radius, so in other words, incineration,
That is all.
117 kilometers square.
That's pretty much the whole country if you drop that right in the middle.
Exactly. Air blast radius, 5 psi, enough to knock down buildings.
Yeah.
3,350 square kilometers. So that blue radius kind of thing is just crazy. And then radiation is going to stretch out for over 17,000 kilometers. To put that into perspective, right? You know, you can see estimated fatalities around 116,000. It doesn't put the true scale and horror of these things into perspective. You need to drop them into cities. So
yeah, because this isn't counting the amount of cows and stuff that would be killed.
no, you would have about 4 million cows destroyed with that. If it was dropped on Berlin, say Checkpoint Charlie, this thing that I'm talking about, I cited this over Checkpoint Charlie. Look at the size of that bomb compared to Germany. 2.7 million fatalities. It's extraordinary. if you cited that over something like if a bomb of that size was able to make it to New York. Now, getting a bomb of that size to New York would be a hell of a challenge. But let's imagine that it did. If you drop that on Manhattan, Lower Manhattan Island, that's what you're going to see, 8 million fatalities. And to put this into perspective, I want you to see the fireball radius. So I'm going to zoom in a bit here, okay? That fireball radius has completely covered Lower Manhattan Island. So all of Manhattan, right up to the first part of Central Park, is gone.
As we just all sit here.
It's crater, isn't it? But I'm not surprised that we sit with the silence, and that's why a Cold War gone hot game is going to be very interesting for me. Is because how do you stop it? The game can't go to that point because when you go to that point, it's mutual assured destruction. Mm-hmm. So it's how does it get around that? How does it stop going to that point?
If it's based in the 80s, though, can we have Star Wars?
But this is the reason that Reagan and all went nuts on Star Wars.
Yeah, can we not just say the Star Wars prevented this?
Yes, but even when Reagan was putting out about Star Wars still had a 20-year development cycle, which by the time NASA and the military-industrial complex would have finished milking it for every cent, would have ended up a 40-year cycle. So you would still only be halfway through Star Wars now had it been approved.
I'll tell you what, while we mentioned Star Wars, I was watching Horizon, it's a documentary series on the BBC about space junk.
Yeah.
Just this week. And it was talking, you would imagine, yes, there's space junk out there from rockets and all this sort of stuff. But they were saying they were able to track, the US military is tracking all the space junk, right?
Yeah.
And they started with I think it was 3,000 bits they were tracking, roughly the size of a cricket ball, okay, or a baseball. And then something happened, a satellite smashed into each other or something, and it went up to 7,000 or 5,000, right? And then the Chinese blew up one of their own satellites.
Yes, they deliberately
shot with a rocket.
Yeah.
And they have this US military guy going on, I believe they shot that up to distribute junk in space to reduce our ability to fight.
Yeah.
Because they would fill up the space and take out all our satellites and stuff. And he went, I fear a war in space. And I was looking at, watching the show going, what does he mean by a war in space? Does he mean missiles just taking everybody's satellites out all over the place?
No.
What does he mean by a war in space?
Well, a war from space is because remember, if you travel straight up and down, you can hit anywhere on the planet in about 45 minutes or something like that. There, it's just using that kind of roller coaster trajectory.
I thought it was creepy though. The Chinese blowing up their own satellite purposefully. Why would they blow it up?
Well, because you can create a tracking nightmare for it to begin with. Yeah. You also put all the other satellites that are maybe within some radius of that satellite at risk. There's a lot going on up there. Remember that there's technologies like there's like a little mini space shuttle, okay? Yes. And it's not launched by NASA, it's launched by the military, and it goes up there and it spends 13 months, 18 months in orbit, completely classified. You've no idea what it's doing up there, and it just stays up there. And then it comes back down again, and then they send another one up. It's a frightening prospect.
But what's even more frightening, I'm just slightly off topic here, is if this keeps happening, it's going to cascade because every little particle is going to start smashing, and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
It's exponential.
Yeah, it just goes and goes. But I was thinking it'll get to the point where we'll trap ourselves on our own planet.
Yes.
Because we won't be able to get out past all this junk without getting blown up.
Well, we'll find technological solutions to that. For flying dust carts and
giant
stuff like
lasers.
that. My old man's a space bin man. He wears a bin man's hat. It's so. Anyway, Team Yankee. I know I got sidetracked there on blowing up Beasts of War, but
do you think they'll have to change the name though? Team Yankee.
No.
But it doesn't exactly say Cold War Team Yankee unless you know what the novel is.
Yes, that's the name of the novel, and they've worked with the novelist, so it will become synonymous. It will become synonymous. I think a lot of people looked at it and thought it was like a play on Team America.
Yes.
It's Kapah! But it's not. It's not a play on that. It's a play on this very, very interesting novel that I'm trying to track down. It was made as a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to track down the graphic novel, but I can't afford $80 for this graphic novel.
If we're taking nuclear out of the equation,
Yes.
I'm just going to throw this at you, John.
Oh.
Is there any particular modern day tanks, not modern day right now, but like in the 80s that you're looking at going, oh, this gives me a chance to start painting something?
All the sexy ones.
All the sexy ones. You've Chieftain, because the British were only just getting rid of Chieftain at the end of the 80s. Challenger 1 was coming in. The Americans had Abrams.
Abrams, yes.
M60
Gorgeous looking tanks,
and Abrams. The Russians had T-55, T-62, T-72, and T-80. So they had a lot
But
of
it's only
big stuff.
attack helicopters.
They may have
and
even-
stuff.
And yes, they attack
They may have even had
helicopters.
laser, though, the Russians, because someone put a link on the site and he says, Weird World War, check this out, Lloyd. And it's this supposed Russian tank sitting with a big laser on the top of it for shooting stuff down from like the 80s.
I don't know. But this is our opportunity to explore all of that.
This is why I get a load of comments. You're talking absolute
Yeah.
beep.
But you know, the infantry were better equipped. The vehicles are better equipped. The aircraft are better equipped. You know, the 1987 we're into Top Gun territory here. You know, you're looking at all sorts of really, really interesting stuff.
America's flying the Tomcat. Britain's got the Tornado.
Yeah.
Germany's
Harrier
got
jump jets.
whatever Harriers were coming in.
Vulcans. Vulcan bombers.
Yes, but there's your problem. Vulcan's
They
a
were
nuclear
there.
bomber.
Yeah, well, it was a nuclear bomber. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but we can still get 15 mil scale Vulcans and have an airfield that you're fighting over. It's all about getting this beautiful, beautiful, interesting kit.
Had the Americans stopped using Hueys then by this stage?
No.
So Hueys can still be in it.
Hueys were still in it, but they moved on to like Apache was coming in. They had
Chinook.
Chinooks.
Chinooks, Cobras.
Such a variety.
Oh, it's just, this is why I'm so excited about this. Especially with Battlefront moving into plastics, okay? You know, a lot of this stuff, I would hope it'll be plastic kits. I'm hoping a lot of it's going to be resin as well. I love the weight of the resin kits. But please let this be a big one for them, so they can continue supporting this, and we can get all these models in so as we can live this out in some really cool ways. I just think it's great.
Right, we're going to take a quick swipe here and tell you about some hubs, and then we're going to be back to talk a little bit about Gen Con because we've mentioned it a few times.
Yeah, and we don't want Kim Jong-un to get annoyed this week as well.
Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastsofwar.com. Become a general of mighty armies at the Kings of War Hub. Take command of elves, dwarves and orcs in this game of masked fantasy combat on beastsofwar.com.
Okay, we're back for talking about Gen Con. What a show.
Oh, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
61,000 and something attendees?
Yeah, it was twice as many as there was in 2010. That's the growth of that show.
Wow.
It is incredible. We have the full live blog there now, so, and it's there's interviews with a whole bunch of companies and stuff that's there. So really what I want to do, because I've spent most of my time blethering about nuclear holocausts and stuff, so I'm going to be fairly quick to this, but I just want to signpost some of the highlights for you to go and have a look at. It's all there in the live blog. The girls caught up with as many people as they could, got interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
like
with
that,
it being just two women doing the job on their own, I think it did a smashing job.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have mattered if it was two men. Let me be completely clear on that.
Oh, I don't mean it in that respect.
Yeah, you know, it's
But I
just want to be clear.
Let me rephrase it. Consider it was two humans.
Yes,
on their own.
humans. Yes, in there on their own. You know, let's not be sexist. Remember, the survey says how wargamers are not welcoming, especially to women, and we want to change that. Okay, so right. I want to kick off with a little bit of Privateer Press. Privateer Press were there. I want to show you a picture. I've got a few wee little pictures. It's going to feel a bit like holiday snaps, but I picked some of the best stuff that I just want to chat about, right? Privateer Press were there. They had a release at it, but they had this.
Yeah, this looks really good.
Oh, just look at it. Oh, come on. How gorgeous is that? Privateer Press, they really know how to put on a show, right? But...
Wait, don't go anywhere. John's got a train.
I
think I'm wearing the wrong t-shirt. Oh, well.
You don't have
your like trains t-shirt. Bring it up for our viewers because I want to point something out, right?
Yes.
Right up there at the top. Do you see where it says Privateer and the Privateer logo up there in the top right-hand corner? Yeah?
Yeah.
You see there's a tree there kind of up and at an angle.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's zoom in on that. How awesome is that? That's no tree. That's a space station. I mean, that's a weapon.
That's classic in a club somewhere.
Oh, look at that. That model is just unreal. And just standing there with a tree, with the roots and all, it's just been uprooted. He's going to blast somebody with it. It's just fantastic. Ben tells me that the board itself might be closely related to one of the maps in the video game or something like that. He said he's been playing it and it looks a bit similar. So I'm not sure if it was inspired by that or not, but whatever it was, it does look amazing. The thing that they announced, the Undercity board game, which is this.
Let me get that on there.
How cool is that?
When did this come in?
It just arrived. Okay, so this is what they were showing off at the show. I wasn't planning on doing an unboxing, but do you want me to open it up and to see what's in it?
It'd be remiss of us not to have a look at some of the parts.
Yeah, well, let's get her opened up. So it has to be done. Gamer, lovely. Okay, so we've got the campaign guide in there.
Some of that stuff.
I'll pass it to you. You throw it under camera till we see what all's in it. Here we have reference sheets. Okay. Rule book itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just going to whiz through this. We'll do a proper unboxing. Don't we?
We'll get a proper unboxing. Big bag of tiles.
Let me just get some of the rule book.
Ho, 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 ho. Oh boy! Right, if we just zoom out a bit, Lloyd,
I'll come back to
you get this as well. A proper big card. Well, what is it?
Yeah, you've got that. That's your big playmat, right?
Yeah.
Now you set that down, and the bits that I have here are the bits that you pop out, and that's how you build up the shape of your Undercity caverns and dungeons and stuff like that.
Now I'm trying to be careful with this. I'll just put it down here. So,
this is one of the games that excited me a while ago on the weekend where we were looking at the pictures. And I thought, ooh! Remember, John, were you in that discussion? Probably.
Did you have an
John.
opinion?
Probably not.
Anyway, at the time I was saying, I think this could be my way into that universe.
Iron
Yeah.
Kingdoms, that's
Because
right.
I found it a bit hard to get into, and I thought, here we go, this is my bridge.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get a look at this stuff.
You get decks of cards and stuff like
decks
that
of
there. And then finally, let's show you some of this
Nice.
stuff.
What the hell is
Oh, fantastic. And a whole bunch of minis, all pre-assembled. And you know what? For little gaming pieces, they are pretty spot on, actually.
Do you know what? Before you
Well, let's get this
before you
guy.
take them all out, give me the bag. for
There,
goodness sake.
show the whole bag of them.
Put that down there, John. Don't take them away just yet.
So the box contents
Check
is...
that out. Look at that.
Yeah.
Class.
16 map tiles, 8 dice, 44 plastic figures, 4 hero character sheets, 203 cards, 202 tokens, and 7 linked adventures in the campaign. Very, very nice. So I'm looking forward to us getting a game of that.
I'm just setting some more out to give you a few more examples.
They are so
There's
good.
just loads in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely loads.
So I think that this game is looking very, very exciting to me because it has that dungeon crawler feel. Okay, next one that I want to talk about.
Don't worry, we will show you that in more detail.
Hawk were there.
Yes.
With Drop Fleet.
Which is looking sweet.
Oh boy, is it looking sweet. Right, so here we have Drop Fleet. So this is some of the ships for the UCN and the Scourge.
Yes.
I need it.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this the first time we're seeing the Scourge one?
Yes.
Is that what's new for Gen Con?
Yep.
This is utter shiny syndrome, right?
Now, I want to talk specifically about Drop Fleet for a second, okay?
Yes.
But before I do, let me let you and the viewers at home wet their pants just a little bit at this.
What is that?
How amazing is that? That is a big version of, do you see that ship there, that UCN ship that you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made a big version of it,
Is this
just
on-
as a display version.
Is this on the same sort of scales as that other one that Dave made for Switch?
I don't know. I don't know how big it is, but I know it's big. It's bigger than. Well, it's big. It's just utterly stunning. Why am I excited about this game?
Right.
Okay, I want to educate you for a second. I'm
You got
excited.
slides?
I'm excited. Right, let me get my slides. Right, imagine that Dave wanted to nuke Beasts of War. So, no, why I'm excited about this game is this game. I love the Hawk vision for this game. Firstly, it doesn't take place in deep space. It takes place in planetary orbit. Okay, so all these ships are fighting in tight orbit around the planet. Okay, and they're interacting with the planet. So this is not a game where ships are interacting with one another across that way. They are doing that, but they're also interacting with the planet itself.
So they're blowing each other up in orbit.
Yes, but also in blowing up strategic positions and things like that, I would imagine, on the surface of the planet.
You do know the problem with that is they're creating lots and lots of space junk.
Well, let me tell you why battling in space actually doesn't work, right? I've read a fantastic series called Lost Fleet. Highly recommend it for anybody that's into their science fiction.
Okay.
Now, for any battles to take place in space, in deep space, you first have to be able to get to deep space, which involves some form of near relativistic travel. In other words, speed of light. So you need to be able to get close to the speed of light to be even able to get into deep space to begin with, right?
Yes.
Once you have ships that are capable of relativistic speeds...
When he says deep space, he means basically outside of the solar system.
Yeah, outside of the solar
You'd still be
system.
traveling for a very, very long time at just sub-light speed.
Yeah. So, no, but even at light speed, you will get there fairly quickly.
No, you won't. It'll take years and years and years to get anywhere.
No.
It'll take like 15 years to go 15 light years.
Yeah, but you don't have to go 15 light years. Okay.
No, and that's my point. As soon as you're outside of...
Yeah, no. Listen.
Okay.
You would still have jump gates and stuff like that there to get you to your things. But once you start reaching near relativistic speeds, battle becomes impossible, right? Because if you don't want to fight, you just go and you'll never be caught. And space is so big, you can't be cornered. You have to choose to fight.
Yeah.
And nobody would choose to fight over nothing. So what you'll tend to find is that the battles take place near things like jump gates or planets with resources, or in Halo's perspective, around a Halo ring or something like that. So what you find is that battles have to take place near something. Drop Fleet nails this for me because it very rightly decides early on, well, the battles are going to be taking place in and around the planet because that's where the resources are. That's where the reason to fight is. There's no reason with Battlefield Gothic, for example, for fights to take place in deep space. It just wouldn't happen. The other interesting thing is that when you start to get near light speed, okay, by all accounts, computers would not be able to calculate where your opponents or where your enemies are for firing weapons. All it can do is give best guesstimates. Because when you're traveling at light speed, you won't actually see your opponents until the movement is over. It's really, really interesting. Once you start doing anything near the speed of light, things start to get really trippy and really, really weird.
But that's not a problem because we roll dice. That simulates dice.
But it doesn't have an effect in this. This is grounded in military reality for me, and that's what I like about it. The other thing about it is that it's going to have lots of factions, okay? And so that gives plenty of longevity to a game like this. And I also know that from what Dave and Andy Chambers working on it, is tactically and the semantics of the game are very, very well tuned. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. I'm just hugely excited for it. And that picture,
Let me show it.
Absolutely blew my mind.
I do want one.
Okay, next thing that blew my mind, on the topic of Halo, you have to check out this. What we've got here is the 15mm Halo Ground Battles game. Woohoo! Right, so whenever we talked about Halo on the Weekender, so many weekenders ago, we were talking about a ground battles game we'd heard and that it was on its way and so on and so forth. We now know it is definitely on its way, and it's definitely 15 mil. 15 mil is going to allow us to have vehicles like this one, pull it up, in a level of detail that makes it beautiful looking, okay? And the actual individual troopers themselves, they're not half bad either. We have some pictures of
let me
those
get
guys.
those. So here we are, Covenant Grunts. What else we got coming up?
We have these guys here. Yeah, that's Covenant Elites.
Yeah.
And then finally these guys here.
We've got Spartans.
Now the great thing about this is, we are getting to a stage now with 3D printing and the casting technologies and stuff that there is as much detail going into 15 mil sculpts as what you would have found in 28 millimeter sculpts a while ago.
We do have one other picture of a range of warthogs.
Oh yeah, check this one out. So I think 15 mil is the perfect scale for this. If you went 28 mil, you couldn't have got the big tanks.
You couldn't have got the epic feel.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't have got the big battlefield. You couldn't have got the big tanks and stuff, the big walkers.
And if you go back to the elites, the purple, they're surprisingly good looking for 15 mil stuff.
Yeah,
that's
excellent
actually
looking.
kind of really cool looking.
Did you see inside the Warthog as well? They have the seat padding all modelled out.
Yeah, well, let me pull up the Warthog. Look at that. Look at the detail on that
the center
vehicle.
console and everything in there. That's amazing.
That is cool stuff.
And you're going to end up with multiples of this. You know, that's the other beauty of it being at 15 mil scale. It's a perfect scale for this game.
Oh
absolutely
my
perfect
God!
scale for this
Why
game.
are there so many games?
This is why I was saying that if this was the best week in the world to be a gamer, it absolutely was. Okay. Conan Rise of Monsters were there. They were there showing off some of their pre-paints. I have a couple of quick images. Check this out.
This is their big statue.
Yep. And let me bring up another couple of images here for you. Now, we don't know exactly how good the pre-paints are going to be at this stage. You know, but by all purposes, they are looking like they're going to be pretty cool. So they are. I have a couple more images just to show you. I love the serpent. I think the serpent is very, very cool. I want to see this succeed because I want to see pre-paints of this quality. You know, I just think if we could get to a stage where we're seeing pre-paints of that quality, you know, this market will start to flip.
They've got quite a big goal set for that Kickstarter, but they've got off to a good start. So I mean, there's a lot of people out there who want some good pre-paints.
Yeah, this is simple. If you go along and you like what they've got, you've got the money to back it, and you feel like backing it, go in and back it. You know, it's they're about a third of the way. No, they're about halfway to their goal.
Yeah.
So you know, who knows?
Justin's gonna really like these. See with that basing style, Justin will absolutely.
The black basing style. Yeah. On the topic of pre-paints, Fantasy Flight were there. I've got to show you this for Armada, for Star Wars Armada. Look at that.
That's big.
Oh! Now that is a model. You know, we were getting to the stage now where we're buying some of this Fantasy Flight stuff for X-Wing and for Armada just to put on our shelves. Never mind actually put on our gaming tables.
It's just there beside him.
Oh, here it is. Yes, here it is. It is just an absolutely formidable model.
Yeah,
formidable model.
And the other stuff recently that's come out, there's brand new lots of X-Wing stuff coming out.
Yes, I have some of that X-Wing, the X-Wing waves. They're coming up. This is more Rebels.
Well, we've got Rebels and Scum.
And here we have
more. Oh, we've got Imperials.
Yeah.
No, the thing that's cool about this is, do you see that big ship?
Yeah.
The two ties can clip under it and be transported around.
Oh, that's
that
very cool. That is very cool. And then we also have this one. Now we are starting to get to the stage
Bounty
where...
Hunter ship that apparently Darth Vader flew around on trying to track down the Millennium Falcon in.
Is that what that is?
I think if I read that correctly, that's what it is.
We see that's the interesting thing now about where Fantasy Flight are going with X-Wing. They've done all the stuff we recognise from the movies.
Yes.
They're now into the expanded lore for all these ships.
Yeah,
so.
now to mention it, because there was some comments saying, "Oh, I'm not that interested because I don't recognise any of these ships because these aren't the ones from the movie." that's the bit I was sitting thinking, this is what I like most.
Yes,
It's
seeing
now
new stuff.
It's new stuff that I'm
well,
like,
it's
ooh.
old stuff, but to us, it's new stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great. They put on an amazing show at Gen Con. And then finally, one of the things that I'm hugely excited about, you all know we're a fan of the Battle of Hoth here at Beasts of War. Here you go. This is Fantasy Flight's take on it. So this is their Imperial Assault Return to Hoth expansion. Not quite as epic as what Beasts of War took to Salute and are taking to Dragonmeet.
It's interesting though that they've got tank type things.
Yeah. I love the Wampa. I love the Wampa. And do you know what? That wraps it up. That's all I've got to show you. However, I'm going to be doing another big Gen Con update. I've got some really interesting stuff to show you.
Yeah.
And some kind of sneaky, kind of, I don't know, stalkerish type stuff that I want to show you tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So if you're interested in that, come across to beastsofwar.com. Sign up as a backstager. It keeps the lights burning. It keeps all this content flowing. This show, if you enjoy this show, The Weekender, you will love The Weekender XLBS. It's an entirely other show. It's not this with a bit appended on. It's a whole other show. And by being a backstager, you make this show possible. So if you sit every weekend and enjoy this Weekender, well, come across and become a backstager and guarantee that you will continue to get The Weekender.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah. So anyway, I've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tomorrow morning. So how about we call it a day at that, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
That'll do.
And then we'll see you guys tomorrow.
In a world controlled by massive corporations, a steady aim and split-second decisions are needed for your MegaCon to complete its goals. Begin your missions at the Mercs Hub on beastsofwar.com. Enter into the dangerous dungeons of myth as a mighty hero and stand against the darkness. Visit the Myth Hub on beastsofwar.com and begin your story.